Starting in a couple of minutes, we have our next session, Increase Show Revenue. Keep your visitors and exhibitors happy. So if you're an exhibition organizer, you definitely want to be listening to what we've got to say here on this panel. And we have the lovely Shane Lewis from IBTM, Danny Stevens from Fielddrive, and last but not least, Brenda Hobday from Shoppa. So if you could come up, thank you very much. Okay, I'm sorry we started a couple of minutes late. That's my fault. So if we could start with you, Brenda, could you just tell us a little bit about what you do? What is Shoppa? Yes, it should be working. Give us a test.
Thank you very much. Testing, yes. Thank you very much, James. Yes, we just launched Shoppa, and it's a marketplace system for event organisers, basically where you can have all your exhibitors selling on one portal, and you manage your brand. So you manage the deliveries, the SLAs of all your exhibitors, and it's drop shipping, so you don't have to hold any of the stock yourself.
Okay, and if we could yep. I'm sorry, I'm still learning the names. Danny.
I'm Danny.
It's our first time we've met. Yeah.
Good morning. Hi. I'm Danny. Been in the event industry since '91. Ran an event agency and basically flipped over to event technology, and we're delivering global on-site services, global on-site solutions, and focusing mainly on visitor engagement and generating more revenue for the show generating value for every stakeholder in the event, basically.
Okay. I walked past your booth and I noticed you're doing facial recognition technology.
That's
as
one
well.
of the new technologies we're launching now. Facial recognition is the hot topic for 2018. So what we do there is basically when people upload their photo during the registration process, we will verify it, and as people walk up to the booth or to the registration desk, they will be recognized by the camera, and we've got on a database of 10,000 people, we've got an accuracy of 99.6% of correct recognition. And by the time you get to the kiosk, so we set up a camera about 10 meters before the kiosk, and by the time you get to the kiosk, your badge is already printed. Okay. So that reduces the check-in time to 5 seconds per delegate.
Okay, I know that's off subject, but I think it's quite an exciting thing for event organisers. And then Shane, could you just tell us a bit about you and what you do and where you do it?
Sure, thanks James. Yeah, so my name's Shane Lewis and I work for Reed Exhibitions as part of the IBTM portfolio. So I'm sure as event organisers, a lot of you are going to be familiar with the event. I've been there for about 5 years now and primarily working with the technology vendors. Been able to pick up quite a bit of experience from people like Danny and some of the other vendors here directly.
Shane, I'll start with you. How do you, with a show like IBTM, it's a huge show, how do you generate new revenue streams besides the exhibitors paying for square meters and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, with something as established as IBTM, it's been going for 30 years now, you need to start to get a bit creative to avoid being stale. The obvious choice is obviously bringing in more exhibitors and sponsorship, but we've started to look at other things because it's obviously a travel generating event. So the amount of people coming from all over the world who are coming to the shows. So this year we're working with a company called Hotel Mapper, who are actually ensuring that we're kind of using trusted vendors for the hotels, for anyone who's attending the event. So we make sure that everyone's safe and using good quality properties, and also ensuring that we're able to increase revenue streams from a different facet from outside of the 3 days itself.
Okay, good. And Danny, what about you? How do you assist organisers in terms of revenue streams?
Well, I'd like to say first that when you adopt technology for your events, there's actually two ways to look at it. Either you adopt technology because you like it and it's sexy and because you want, like 7 years ago, everybody wanted QR codes, and now probably next year, everybody wants facial recognition. I always ask, like, start with the objectives of your event. What do you want? What output do you want to get out of it? What's the value for the stakeholders? And how can I convert this investment into a return on investment and actually have it generate money? So when you adopt technology, obviously it costs money, and it's up to the technology providers to provide ways to monetize that expense into something that actually generates revenue for the event organizer. So event technology doesn't always have to cost money, it can also be a new revenue generator. Some of the examples we do is we do live badge printing on events, and we print full color badges on the fly. So people walk in, and within 6 to 7 seconds with the traditional technology, scanning a barcode, your badge will print out. Typically you will sell the backside of the badge to any sponsor in the event. So you will become badge sponsor, and you might generate 5,000 or 10,000 depending on the event. What we do is we do targeted advertising on the backside of the badge. So since we print in full color, you can actually target those adverts and saying, oh, I'm interested in mobile apps, you might sell it to one of the exhibitors, and that way you can actually, the full color badge printing can generate 4 to 5 times more revenue than you would generate. Rather than selling it once for 10,000, you sell it 5 times for 5,000, and you target your audience within the event. So that's one little idea how you can monetize technology within an event.
And Brenda, a show shop in particular, how does the organizer benefit from selling the exhibitor's products through that portal?
The organizer receives a commission back on all the sales that go through the portal. So it's not just during an exhibition, it's all year round, 365. So they can leverage their brand. They've got the relationship, the organizer's got the relationship with their database, and they've also got their relationship with the event exhibitors. And so from the sales that come through the portal, they can take a commission on that, and that commission comes straight out into the organizers.
Okay, but then how do you make sure that there's a balance between incorporating that revenue stream and making the users or the attendees happy, that they're not just getting bombarded with sales messages and things like that?
That's all controlled by the event organizer. So the supplier, the exhibitor is supplying the goods, but it's all monitored and an overview by the event organizer. And the event organizer can drop a supplier if they're not signing up for next year's exhibition for a start, or if they're not meeting SLAs, then they can just be dropped. The organizer has the control of that brand, which is absolutely essential.
So Shane, for IBTM, for example, I mean, it'd be nice to have those revenue streams, but how would you balance that off between creating a new revenue stream and making sure that the user experience isn't a big sales job in terms of trying to make extra money?
I guess the important thing to consider is value, really. People will pay for what they value. If you are really bringing value to something, then they're prepared to, there's not going to be complaints about what the price point and how things are. For example, it's obviously a very generic term, but when you consider return on investment, it's not just about a financial commitment. Right now, you guys have given up half hour of your time to sit here and listen to us, and the return you're expecting is you should have learned something. That's an investment of your time that you're looking at, and the value that we're trying to give you at this moment in time. So as long as you can kind of break down and really understand who's coming, what they will value, and target and build around that kind of that concept, then it should be a no-brainer. The revenue stream should come, and everyone should be happy as a result of that. It's all about doing your homework.
So, Danny, just going back to that revenue stream idea, do you think that there's the consumer shows more suited to that, or do you think it's more of a trade show, B2B type thing, or is it just about the kind of show and the kind of products? Because obviously, you know, if it's a motor show, Shoppa probably won't be the kind of technology you're going to work you're not going to buy a Rolls Royce via that channel, are you? Yeah?
I think, that...
Sorry, we just give it to Danny there. So difference between the consumer and the trade.
I think it goes in both ways, and it's about how the organizer uses the technology for its stakeholders, the visitors or anyone in the show. let me give you an example of the Brussels Motor Show. We introduced NFC touchpoint kiosks like 6 years ago. That was a very early stage. And then Dieter and Volkswagen Group, they adopted this technology and they had like 18,000 qualified leads of individual visitors visiting their booth and saying, I'm interested in this type of car. My car is now 6 years old and I intend to buy a car within the next 6 months. And when we saw them back 6 months later, we asked them, what have you done with these data? They say, oh, we didn't have the time to follow it up. We don't have the resources for it. So it's not only thinking about the technologies, it's not just implementing the technology, it's also thinking about how am I going to use this data to make it valuable. And whether it's a trade show or a corporate event, you need to think about the whole plan. You need not only about the investment and not go for RFID or NFC technology because it's sexy, but asking yourself, what are we going to do with the data afterwards? Because a lot of companies are sitting on data and they're not using it as they should be.
Okay. We've got a question here which is slightly off track of the revenue stream. You can see that, can't you? So Barbara, it says, what is the most effective way of tracking happiness at an event? I mean, Shoppa's not going to be able to do that, but do you have any ideas on that particularly?
Well, it might help by knowing the number of customers that come back to, or visitors that come back to an event site after the show. But probably facial recognition will help. All the smiling faces on facial recognition.
Actually, that's one technology we're working on. That's emotional recognition. So not only the recognizing the person, but also recognizing the expression on the face. It's early stage, but I think really this is the technology of the future. And when you compare, you're working in a closed environment with facial recognition in the events industry. It's not like in retail, like you have 1 billion people and you have to recognize them out of a crowd. You have pre-registered, people have opted in according to GDPR and everything in terms of legal, because there's a lot of legal aspects to look at there. And in terms of emotional recognition, it's something you can really track. So, and we see this, you go to a booth or to an exhibitor, you can actually put up a camera and then read the expressions and put that in a sort of emotional report, visit report. Will it be of value? That's how will we convert this technology into something that is valuable for you as an event organizer? Yeah. It's just like 90% of the people that visit our stand was smiling. Does that add value for you? Maybe you just had a good-looking hospitality team.
Okay, so let's get back to creating revenue streams. Shane, what are the more successful revenue stream technologies that you've used? Or maybe it's not even a technology, maybe it's just something completely different from a technology at IBTM to create those revenue streams besides selling the square meter.
Well, I guess it's getting to a point now where you're looking at sort of, I guess, if you're integrating more sponsorships from different angles. Recently we did, one of my, Event Moby did a webinar with us. You like just using our platform to showcase what they can do. But other things that I'm seeing, kind of building on from the hotel mapper thing. So there's a startup that's with us this year, that their whole premise is a plug-in for like almost like a sky scanner to sort out flights. And so that can just plug straight into your website. So people are then arranging their flights as well as their accommodation whilst attending your event. So you're almost a one-stop shop for an international platform. It makes their life a lot easier for the person attending the event, but also as us as organisers, it gives us the opportunity to explore other ways of making money from that ourselves.
Okay, good. We've got another question here. Everybody seems to be interested in happiness, but I don't see anybody smiling out there. Oh, there we go. We've got a smile there. So was that your question? Okay. Somebody says, are we guilty of making visitors happy at the expense of exhibitors? You must get asked this kind of question or have this question posed at you as selling space, right?
Yeah, sure. But I guess the reality is any of the exhibitors sort of in the crowd in the background will answer that the more visitors there, the more business opportunity leads they can come away with. So they're happy. So, and it's the quality of speakers, it's the quality of the content that's going to bring in the visitors anyway. So as long as they're getting the lead, however they're measuring that metric, whether it's converted business, whether it's lead generation, whether it's brand awareness, as long as they're achieving those objectives on the back end of who's coming to the event, they'll walk away happy anyway.
And Danny, in your experience, how does that? Do you ever see that going on? Exhibitors are not happy, but visitors are, or
Well, it's whatever technology you adapt, there needs to be something in there for everybody. Every stakeholder in the event needs to see the value. When you adopt technology, it's about adding value for the visitor. For instance, coming back to that facial recognition, walking up to a screen and the camera recognizes you and it says, like, based on your profile, I think you might be interested in visiting this and this and this exhibitor. That makes sense. So that adds value, just like Google does, it pushes you information that is relevant to you. As soon as you start using the technology to start bugging people with a lot of information, but that's the responsibility of the organizer. The technology providers, they provide the technology, and whatever organizer is dealing with him, it's his responsibility. And we've seen some cases where it's not even the gray zone, but it's the black zone. For instance, we saw, based on the lead retrieval technology, we had identified qualifiers for different exhibitors in the trade show, and the show organizer was actually selling the visitor data of one brand to another one, because they had a similar product, and the show organizer was selling the leads of the visitors of one exhibitor to the other one, because they were having similar products. That's a very bad use case, because that's not done. But that's what technology can do. It's technically possible, but it's the responsibility and the ownership of the organizer to use it in an ethical way. And as soon as you go into that, then I'm sure that you are making visitors not happy and just having the adverse product.
So let's go to Showstopper. You got something to say? Please say.
Well, yes, I've been in the event industry for a long time. I've run trade shows and consumer shows, and the synergy between trade show visitors and trade show exhibitors is much easier to make the happiness between the synergy between the visitors and exhibitors. With consumer shows, I've found, from my experience, it's been slightly different insofar as obviously the exhibitors want to make money, as much money as they can on their stand, but the visitors want to come more for information, and when they feel happy and getting the information, then they'll spend more money. So it's not quite as close a synergy with consumer shows.
Okay, but then looking at Shoppa in particular, where we've got exhibitors selling through a portal, how do you make sure that the products that are being delivered by the exhibitors don't reflect badly on the organizer? How does all that kind of work?
Because the organizer has control. They have control of the release of exactly what is sold. So they can't be selling, if somebody has an exclusive on one product, then somebody else can't go and put that product on, or anything being sold is controlled by the organizer. The whole basis of Shoppa is that the organizer has control of their brand.
Okay, so the customer should be happy because it's all well moderated and things
Absolutely,
like that.
because the organizer is protecting their brand, so they're not going to get bombarded with excess information. Yeah.
Okay. So Shane, if you were going to suggest to people out there what would be a couple of things that they could take away from this in terms of how could they generate more revenue, what might be some ideas that you could propose?
I guess it's just obviously kind of, think outside the box a little bit. It's the ones I've obviously mentioned about kind of utilising your event as a platform, like it's something like IBTM, for example, but pretty much any event that probably you guys would be doing, it's going to be bringing people to the local area for whatever reason, whether it's here in London, whether it's on something on an international stage. So if you can look beyond the outside of the four walls, what can you do? How can you incorporate that? Whether, like Adam, of course, we've got the awards dinner this evening. That's an extension of this. Something else that's going on beyond. How can you extend beyond just what you're doing here today, and really think about what would interest people? Because people are going to be doing things anyway if they're coming here. So why not try and get involved in that and try and maximise and obviously direct where people are going as well? Because if it is an international case, some people aren't from the city. The last thing you want to hear is a horror story of someone being mugged or something. So if you're bringing them somewhere where they're safe and secure whilst being able to get something out of it, it's surely a win-win throughout.
Okay, and Danny, your takeaway for our lovely our lovely attendees out there?
I would say every touch point in your event where you have the visitor engaging with either the exhibitor or the organization is an opportunity to generate revenue. So, for instance, look at the welcome area, the batch printing area. You can do advertising on the kiosk. You could have bannering on the registration screens. That's something you can upsell. So that's a way to monetize that technology. And then you have that's the whole welcome area. You can have these personalized badges with personalized advertising. That's some ways to generate. Another one is the touch points with the exhibitors. Lead retrieval is still one of the biggest revenue generators for exhibition organizers. When you look at, and it's not the organizer that's paying, it's the exhibitor that's paying. When you rent either an app, a mobile app, you download it to your phone, or you rent these little barcode or RFID scanners, whatever, you will sell them to the exhibitor for a price roughly between $250 and $450, depending on the show. And the revenue, part of that revenue actually goes directly to the show organizer. So it's the exhibitor registering on the portal, he pays for it, he pays $350, and then $100 or $150 goes directly to the show organizer, and it's actually generating revenue, and it's not coming out of the pocket of the show organizer, it's the exhibitor paying. And what does he get? He gets the value of being able to scan and getting the data, the relevant data of the visitors. So that's a second way to engage.
I like that idea, that's great. And Barbara, last word for you. Besides Show Shoppa, because we all know what Show Shoppa is now, right? Yeah. Any other ideas? Because you're a seasoned professional in this area.
Well, it's really just to step outside your event and look at what assets you have that you can use to leverage attendance, exhibitor relationships. You've got a massive asset with your database, both your database of exhibitors and your database of visitors, and you don't just have to rely on that one event each year to increase your revenues and engender better exhibitor relationships.
Okay. Well, thank you very much to Barbara from Show Shoppa, Danny from Fielddrive, and Shane from IBTM World and IBTM Portfolio of Events. Thanks for joining us today, and thank you for listening to How to Increase Revenue Streams. Cheers.
Thank you.